Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahalo, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedly. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest little neighborhood in all of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very excited that you are joining us in every episode of Reading with Your Kids. It's a new adventure filled with great stories, amazing authors, powerful reminders of how reading together helps families grow closer. If you'd love to help us spread the word, please let all of your family and friends know that they can listen on the WRED AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Podcast Addict, Audible, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Adam Adler is here with his daughter Isla, telling us all about the Wyzly app. It's a great learning app that Isla actually inspired. Later in the show, Mahatap Nasahem is here to celebrate Haunted. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the books of Dr. Peter Cotton. This is one of those stories that makes kids gasp, then giggle. Meet Fred the Snake. Fred is curious. Fred is adventurous. And unfortunately, Fred forgot to look both ways before crossing the road. Squish! But don't worry. This isn't a scary story. It's a hopeful one. And when Fred the Snake gets squished and mended, Fred wakes up in the hospital where kind doctors are ready to sew him back together. There's just one problem. They need a very special bendy thread, and it can only be found deep under rhinos in the wild jungle. So off goes Jungle Jim, who enjoys, so one supposes, hunting fierce rhinoceroses. He gets his thread, and Fred is mended. This delightful picture book is full of heart, humor, and just enough gentle suspense to keep kids leaning in and cheering when Fred gets mended. And here's something that we really love. Like I said, the book is written by Dr. Peter Cotton, a longtime medical doctor and teacher who has now turned his storytelling talents towards children's books. We had Dr. Peter on Reading with Your Kids, and he was an absolute joy. Thoughtful, funny, and clearly someone who understands kids and cares deeply about helping them feel safe and curious about the world. When Fred the Snake Gets Squished and Mended is the first in a wonderful series of Fred the Snake books, making it perfect for families who love characters they can return to again and again. So curl up, read together, laugh together, and remind kids that even when things go wrong, with a little help and a little kindness and a little bendy thread or two, things can get mended. Get your copy of When Fred the Snake Got Squished and Mended on Amazon or wherever you find great books. Hey, my friends, you know one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting Reading with Your Kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from the beautiful state of South Carolina. Our guests are here today to celebrate a really intriguing app that you may want to add to your family phones. First, please welcome to the show the founder of Wyzly, Adam Adler. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. And also joining Adam is the brains behind it, the genius that came up with this concept, Adam's daughter, Isla. Isla, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Isla, let's start with you. Since your dad said this is your idea, tell us what Wyzly is and what's it all about.
So it's a app that controls screen time for kids. So instead of just the screen shuts off, it asks questions to unlock the app.
Interesting. So run me through that. If I'm sitting down with my daughter was still 10 years old, which she's not, but if she was 10 years old and was sitting down and we opened up the Wyzly app, what would we first see?
So it's a great story. I'd say I can give you a very short background of how kind of we started. But in summary, my daughter, like all the other kids in the whole world, they want to use their iPad once they get to be 3-4 years old. I even have a 2-year-old, and she's already learning and understanding how to use the iPad and YouTube and some games. It's unbelievable how early they start. And we would use a screen time control app by Apple with my wife's phone. She would control my daughter's screen time, and it would just shut off at a certain period of time. My wife would say, hey, at 4 p.m., you're done. But my daughter was never finished with the Mr. Beast video that she was watching or playing any of the games. So who wants to be interrupted in the middle? And then she'd run over to me. I'd be in a Zoom meeting, or I would be working, or my wife would be doing something at home with our other daughter, and she would interrupt us and say, I need more time. I have to finish this. This is a priority. I have to finish it. So we would then physically just take away the iPad and say, look, if you do a little bit of your schoolwork, you do some learning, you do some math work, you do something for the next 30 minutes, I'll give you back your iPad at kind of like a reward system. And every parent is doing this in every household. And Isla just didn't want to come over here and argue and fight for more time and have the iPad taken away. So Isla came up with the idea and said, why don't you just download some app from the App Store that will ask me all of the questions, like my homework or math, or let me learn something, let me do something, and then it will unlock it so I can't actually access YouTube. And that's actually what Wyzly does. We looked for it and it didn't exist. No one's ever been able to have pulled that off before. And we're the first, actually, we call it a learn to earn model to screen time. So kids actually earn their time rather than just being given it, or more importantly, what happens every day, which we've actually solved for, is that fight between parent and child for more time. I need more, I need more. Now the parent feels a lot better about themselves because they have factual data via their own phone, seeing what their child's learning, what subjects they're strong at, what subjects they're weak at, and able to even customize the experience. And the child is actually feeling really good about themselves because they've earned the time and they feel empowered. So that was really the birthplace of Wyzly, even in my own house, from Isla's own idea. And we put it into action and helped her. So I can kind of show you how this screen would look here. So if we just type in a passcode in my daughter's iPad, you would see all of the apps. They would kind of be gray and hazy-ish. But text message still works and phone still works. You can still reach your child and you don't lose anything in terms of actual basic functionality. But all of the apps are going to be locked and blocked. So apps that you would know, Roblox, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram. If you go to Roblox and you try to access it, it'll pop up and it'll say, time to answer some questions from Wyzly. And then these questions will pop up here. You can scroll through in a TikTok style every subject exactly for the child's age, grade, and school district. Because what my daughter's learning in Charleston is very different than what your daughter would be learning in Boston or in New York City or in Dallas, Texas, because it goes by school curriculum per region. So these are actually totally customized per child. Every subject, math, history, etc. And when you've answered the questions correctly, the bunny runs across and the device is totally unlocked and you can use it. So that's really essentially what Wyzly's doing right now.
Dad, do you want me to do it?
Yeah. Show us a little example, Isla.
Here. So first question here, complete the subtraction sentence. I don't know if you can see it. It says blank minus 2 equals 9. So we would know that that would be 11. And we got it right, and the bunny ran across here. Then we can go to, let's find another question that we like, a language question. Select the opposite of empty, hollow, bare, blank, or full. So the opposite of empty would be full, and the bunny has run across. He'll give you a little success message, and now you'll come over here, and what you'll see is all of the apps are 100% unlocked. So you can go to Snapchat, YouTube, and YouTube will pop right open, and it'll work right away. And then the device actually goes through process to where if the parent wants, we actually manage the screen time, which is very unique and no one else is doing this. And we do so based on real science and data. We kind of look at it almost as like a nanny option, let's call it. And what I mean is that I'm a parent of a 10-year-old now, and there's another parent of a 10-year-old, and they say 2 hours of screen time is healthy and fine for my daughter, and I say 3 hours is healthy and fine. But in reality, I don't really have any clue if that is truly appropriate and beneficial for my daughter or it's going to harm my daughter. There's tons of studies out there, but I've never performed any clinical trials. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, and I have no idea. Neither does the other father. So if there is a way to take real science and data and decide when to actually pause and take breaks rather than nonstop doom scrolling through YouTube shorts, for example, and say, hey, this kid needs a break after 30 minutes or he's going to be developing some form of ADHD or some behavioral issues because of the nonstop scrolling or consistent use. Let's break up that monotony by asking some educational questions and gaining some enrichment to earn more time. Our actual AI that we've built proprietarily and from scratch does that. And we monitor and make decisions when to pause and ask questions throughout the day. And this is a very unique value proposition for parents and children. So we're actually monitoring and managing screen time for the parents if the parent would like that.
That's really impressive. Tell me, so we go through, we answer a couple of questions, the screen gets unlocked, and now Isla and her other friends can play on the device. How long can they play for? Is that something that a parent sets up?
Yes, so they do. So when you download Wyzly, it asks you like what your child's name is and like where their school district, so they can answer the questions. And the parent chooses how long they're allowed to be on the device for until it unlocks, and how long they're allowed to be on it for the day before it like shuts off completely.
Wow, that's really, really neat. Isla, when you came up with this idea, was it just kind of like out of frustration, like, Dad, I don't want to bother you. You're so busy. Why don't you create this thing? Or did you kind of know in your mind there must be an app out there that can do this and unlock and lock, and that would be really cool?
Yeah, so I always thought that was a really cool idea, and my dad always thought it was a cool idea too, and he looked and it never existed before, so that's why I thought, why don't we make the app that can do that so other kids can use it and be happy.
Isla, just between me and you, no one else is listening. Do you have another idea maybe that your dad's too busy fixing, you can tell me, and then I can go out and make $1 bazillion with you, of course?
You'll let him know. He'll be the first one you call.
So what was the process, Adam, like to create this? Do you have a background in coding or?
No. So I'm essentially what you would call as, I guess, a serial entrepreneur. I started working at a very young age and developed technology that used under the tongue, through the skin, and through the side of the mouth absorption into the bloodstream. The company was called Fuse, and we had an amazing platform of athletes. At the highest level was Tiger Woods, Andy Murray. I had two Boston superstars that you would love, maybe the two most well-known outside of maybe Tom Brady. But I had Big Papi David Ortiz as an endorsement partner, and I also had Paul Pierce. So I had two great, mass legends over there. And through that business, which was very successful, and I served as the private company and the public company CEO, I started investing in many more businesses, and I run a private equity shop here in Charleston, South Carolina. The foundation of that is in real estate, and we have 16 investments in 16 different verticals, ranging from software to many other technologies and products in market, service-based businesses. And as an investor, I kind of understood maybe what Isla was getting at, but I thought it was so unique. And usually the best ideas are something that solves such a problem that nobody else has solved yet. Mm-hmm. And timing was great. And I can tell you that I haven't been to a single meeting with another parent, whether it's dinner, a school event, fun, where the main topic of discussion is not screen time. Some problem with screen time, whatever that problem might be, but it's always a problem with screen time. I'm sure you don't go to a restaurant and don't see kids on screen time, the parent taking it away, trying to make sure they're watching something good, educational, please. Like this battle over more and more time, it's never going away. It's impossible that kids are going to not have a phone or a device or anything. So this solution that Wyzly provides is not a rip away, a take away, a painful method. It's turning something into a positive that for sure is the biggest pain point in every parent's lives. We just read a University of Michigan study at Mott Hospital that rated the parents' biggest problems. They had some type of mental health disorders, abuse that parents were afraid of, drugs, school violence, bullying, and at the top by a mile was screen time, that about 80% of parents stated is their number one worry among any other problem that their child could ever suffer from, that screen time is their biggest problem. And we feel we've really turned that into a positive here.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, when I go out and I'm at a restaurant or somewhere and I just see a kid sitting and scrolling and looking at a device like they're a zombie, it really bums me out, because it's like, wow, you can have so much fun having a conversation with your kid, and the kid will get so much more out of it. So I'm really happy, Isla, that you came up with this great idea and that you had a dad that could follow through on it. Isla, what did you feel when your dad first showed you the app and that you saw that your idea came to life?
Yeah, I felt really good because I knew kids would really like it, and I helped develop all of the things. Like, I helped with product, I helped with the logo, I helped with the questions, because I'm a kid and I know what kids like and what questions are good for their age, and I felt really good when I knew that app was really coming to life, because I knew that the kids were going to like it.
Yeah. And Adam, how long did it take to develop this Wyzly?
So we took a very strong stance with the development and learned from a lot of our experiences in other verticals, to where we decided not to outsource anything to a third-party development company. We opened our own office. We have 11 full-time people of what we think we've put together a team of the absolute best in every single area. We've built our own large and small language models, so our own actual artificial intelligence, our own hyper-intelligent brain that manages the process. We have great front-end people, great back-end people, great developers, an animation expert, a designer. So we put together a world-class team that has built every single piece of the pie from scratch. We knew that we were dealing with children, so we wanted to be able to protect data. We wanted to be able to protect the families and children's and build trust. So we built a product that I built for my own children with zero expense spared. So we've spent a ton of time and money and effort. It's taken us 18 months of actual development and a total of 36 months to get to where we're at. The first 18 months were working with Apple to see if what we wanted to do was even possible, because nobody else has ever had any application that locks and then actually unlocks by the user, or the child in this case, doing so. There's tons of screen time apps that are out there. Many of them are wildly successful. And all of them essentially just pick a time of day or pick apps that they're going to block, lock, and ban. And if I took away your phone, just like I took away a child's phone, and I blocked it, or I gave you the phone and let you have it, but it was blocked, this is enraging, right? And this is the problem here, is the take away, the ban, the block method, and everybody else is doing that without a way to unlock it is very frustrating. We still allow actually the parent to choose, which we call as bedtime. They can choose the bedtime, and it's totally off, and the kid can't actually use it. So we have all the same exact functionality that all of the locking, blocking, and banning ones have, if the parent wants to employ those. But now we have this reward-based micro-learning type, do your homework, learn to earn model that kids love and enjoy. So they don't actually have to fight for more time. They've earned it, but if the parent wants to shut it off, they totally can.
Yeah. Now, Adam and Isla, as you guys are talking, especially about the earning part of the app, I'm reminded of back when I was in school many decades ago, before you were born, Adam. We had this thing, it was called an SRA kit. And it's basically little learning sheets, and they were grouped by colors and whatnot. And you could go up and learn at your own pace. I think it was literacy based. And I would go up and you take a sheet, you go back to your desk and you work it. And when you were finished and it was correct, you go back and you take the next sheet. And I had a blast with it. I really flew through them, and I was oftentimes given the choice, do you want to do some more of this work? If a kid like Isla, who's very intelligent and curious, if she's having fun answering the questions, can she continue to answer the questions and delay Mr. Beast a little longer?
Yes, so you are allowed to when the parent chooses. We're working on the full customization right now, or you can just do the standard or whatever you want, but it's fully customized and you can do more. You can answer like all the questions at once for the day, or you could do it how the standard, but like it asks you the questions in between, and it's fully customized. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I don't know how Wyzly works, Adam, but I am very impressed with your daughter.
Thank you. I appreciate it. She's a real credit to the whole product, and she is spot on that originally we launched where you couldn't for friends and family, just for testing, and we were getting the exact feedback that you said, that Isla always talks about, people ask, what do you like the most about Wyzly? And Isla always says that she looks at this and feels that it's actually a game and it's not forced learning. And that competitive nature, and that it's turned into somewhat of a game, although we don't want to be a game, but kids enjoy it and it's gamified. And as you saw in my example, the backgrounds change, there's sounds, there's animation, it's swipeable. You don't have to answer any questions that you don't want to. So we learn, and our AI learns what the child is actually strong and weak at, what subjects they prefer. So we start boosting up what they're good at. And if they're weak at something, we also help them achieve a higher level at that. And then we ask harder, easier questions based on how they've answered the previous questions. So it's always evolving and improving. And this kind of is somewhat gamified and competitive. And kids want to answer more questions. And we love that. And of course, we will populate questions to them in unlimited volume if they so choose. And once they've accomplished their tasks for the day, they're not forced to continue either. They can just jump into their video. But the parent, as Isla said, can make the decision, hey, how much time, how little time, subjects, questions, etc. They can work with the child based on the data we provide, or even just based on them knowing their own child.
Okay. Adam, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. There's a parent out there who's saying, I hate AI. AI can't replace humans, and we have to have teachers and what do you say to that parent?
I respect that very much, and I think it's, every parent should be able to raise their child how they'd like. I still spend a ton of time with my daughter reading books. Even my 2-year-old, she won't go to sleep at nighttime because we've started a routine to where my wife or myself, who's ever putting the baby to bed that night, is reading a book to her. She asks for books. She likes, similar to like the Where's Waldo in my generation, of where we find characters in the books, interactive things, the flip books. So I don't think that there's just like a one solution and it has to be only AI and that's the only future and books should go away and all of these terrible things should happen. That's not my outlook. I can't predict the future. But I think that if myself as a parent would ignore artificial intelligence, the advancements of technologies, and totally push that aside, I might be doing my child an injustice by not allowing them to at least be in what seems to be what's going on in mainstream. There's a lot of benefits for artificial intelligence, but I don't think canceling all of the traditional methods that I would be used to, actually reading, writing. My daughter writes in cursive. My wife's very big in even her penmanship. I think that those are great assets and even in art, and there's no reason to ignore those and just essentially throw those away because AI is so great. It is great. It's an awesome tool, and we should use it, but I wouldn't encourage anybody to use AI for the full 12 hours that they're awake and never stop. I wouldn't say that that's healthy either. I'd love to have a great balance.
I absolutely agree with you. Isla, tell me, because you seem to be the business person here. Practically speaking, a family goes on and they download Wyzly. I'm guessing that the download is free, but is there a cost to the service, a monthly fee?
So we just launched now on the second week of January. We instituted it for public availability now, which it never was before. We were featured at CES, and it's $7.99 a month. You get the first 14 days for free trial. And if you want to roll into the subscription and keep the service, you can. There's a discount if you pay for the year in advance at $69.99 for the year. And this includes unlimited children and unlimited features. So there's no freemium model. There's no, you can select here and you get charged more. We figure the average person has 2 kids just based on math. If they have 8 children, it's also the same exact cost, or if they have 1 child, it's all the same. So they get the full features, and this fee actually allows us to continue to improve and scale the application. We try to make it as attainable as possible, and compared to others in the market, it's roughly, I'd say, considerably below a lot of the top tier, like screen time controlled apps in terms of cost.
Yeah. And it works, a family one subscription works on multiple devices?
You got it. So every single iOS device that you can have, phone or tablet, it'll work. And parent can have it on their phone. There's full controls on the parent's device. And then the child has it on whatever device they have. There's also a really cool button on the parent device that Isla thought of, which is anywhere in the world that the parent is, you can pause or unpause the device. So if mom is in London on business and child is in Charleston, and the mom just has decided she doesn't want her kid to use the iPad anymore. They just got off FaceTime, and the dad says, I can't take it anymore. He's not behaving. The mom can shut off the device with one click, and the child can't earn any more time, can't do anything unless the mom presses the button back. The dad, of course, has the same capability on his phone.
Mm-hmm. Isla, what's your favorite feature on Wyzly?
My favorite feature is what we're developing right now. It's to build a character, and you earn how many questions you get right. You earn points for that, and you can develop a character is what we're working on right now, and it's really cool.
Very cool. I love it. Isla, is there anything else that we need to know about Wyzly?
No, I think that's it. I think you've got it all covered.
All right. And they can find Wyzly. Is there a website they should go to?
Yeah, so there's wyzly.app is the website address. It's in the iOS store. If you just type in Wyzly, W-Y-Z-L-Y, it'll be in there. It's under parental controls, of course, screen time type searches and everything if you're just looking online. We've had a bunch of great press. Isla was just featured on NBC on TV the other day about, I think on Tuesday, for her app. We've looked at the science side as well, really in depth too, where we had a licensed mental health counselor and real expert in behavioral and mental health for children come in. She's still employed and works with us. Her name's Veronica Rodriguez. She's outstanding, and she's brought a lot of that real hardcore science to this to try to ensure that we're doing the right thing by the children, and the artificial intelligence models that we're building have a real medical and science aspect to it, and not just only learning, which we do have multiple teachers on our board as well that are advising us, but we wanted to make sure that we're hitting every single side and building a product that parents and children both really want and deserve and need.
That's fantastic. We've had a great time speaking. Oh, one last thing. Isla, did you come up with the name Wyzly? Because it's a very wise name.
Yeah, I did.
Good for you. We've had a great time speaking to the driving force behind Wyzly. Our guest has been Adam and Isla Adler. My friends, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you. We appreciate your time very much.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Ramble Office. Before I tell you about Ramble Office, let me tell you about what travel used to look like for me. When I take the Reading with Your Kids studio on the road, it was like a lot. I had one box for the mixer, another case for microphones, a satchel for my laptop, cables everywhere. And I always felt like I was forgetting something. That's why Ramble Office really clicked with me. Rambo takes everything I used to juggle, tech, gear, personal stuff, and puts it into one smart, great-looking unit that's designed to be a mobile office, not just luggage. Everything has a place. Everything stays protected. And when you get to where you're going, you're ready to work. Instead of digging through bags or repacking your life every time you move, Ramble keeps your setup organized and ready to deploy. Travel days stop being chaos and start being productive. It's sleek, modern, built for people whose work doesn't stop just because they're on the move. And if your job follows you, whether that's podcasting, teaching, consulting, or creating, Ramble is worth a look. Go to rambleofficeanywhere.com, all one word, rambleofficeanywhere.com. Use the promo code READ, R-E-A-D, and receive 5% off any product. It's exclusive for Reading with Your Kids listeners. Check it out today, rambleofficeanywhere.com, promo code READ. Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by AspireDrinks.com. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever wanted a little extra energy, but not the kind that makes your heart race or leaves you crashing an hour later? Well, that's exactly why I want to tell you about Aspire Drinks. You'll find them at AspireDrinks.com. Aspire calls itself a healthy energy drink, and honestly, that description really fits. Instead of loading you up with sugar or extreme caffeine, Aspire delivers a gentle, steady boost with 80 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and guarana. That's about half the caffeine of most energy drinks, enough to help you stay focused without the jitters or the crash. It's also zero sugar, 0 calories, and 0 artificial additives, which makes it a great choice for parents, teachers, and anyone trying to make healthier choices while still getting things done. And get this, it actually tastes great, light, crisp, and lightly sparkling, with flavors like sweet cherry, raspberry acai, mango lemonade. That's what I love. No heavy aftertaste and easy on the stomach. Aspire is packed with B and C vitamins, biotin, and ginger. And it's vegan, gluten-free, keto-friendly, really designed for real life. And just for Reading with Your Kids listeners, you can get an exclusive discount of 20% off. That's the highest discount available when you shop at AspireDrinks.com and use our promo code READ. That's READ at AspireDrinks.com. Healthy energy done right. My friends, our guest today is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate her new middle grade novel. It's called Haunted. Please welcome to the show, Mahatab Nasaman. Mahatab, how are you?
I am wonderful, Jed. Thank you. And it's wonderful to be back here again with you.
Yes. We had such a great conversation. It was almost 4 years now. It's incredible. I'm just blown away that we've been publishing Reading with Your Kids since 2017. Wow. And I've had so much fun meeting so many great authors like yourself. Tell us about Haunted. What's going on in this novel?
Right. So Haunted is actually part of a series of 3 novels, which is called Eerie Tales from the East. And I love Asian mythology and I love horror, but the very, very mild middle grade kind of horror. And I thought I would marry the two and research different mythologies from obviously India, because that's where I'm from, from China, and also from Japan. This was just a kind of a start. So Haunted is based on a Chinese myth where Chinese, according to the story, the parents do not want kids to go near a water body or a lake or whatever, because they believe that any soul that might have drowned in that lake is still and did not get a proper burial. The spirit or that soul still lingers in the lake and waiting for the next victim, which would be dragged underwater so that it sets that soul free. And that soul is called the shuigui. And the new victim now takes the place of that released soul. So that was the basis of that Chinese mythology tale that I'd researched, and I put it in a contemporary setting. So Haunted actually takes place in a camp in Canada, somewhere up north, and it's called Sunny Acres Camp, Camp Sunny Acres. And Jonah, who is our young protagonist, reopens this camp along with his mother, because it had been shut down a couple of years ago because of a major tragedy. And as the story progresses, we find out that the tragedy was that a young boy had drowned in the lake. And then once the camp reopens, of course, there are a lot of campers come in, but there is one camper who just hates being there. His name is Dexter, and he creates a lot of trouble. And Jonah has to deal with this. But one of the campers knows about this Chinese myth, and he tells the story to the camp campers, during one of the campfire nights. And Jonah starts to put the pieces together because there is some kind of disturbance in the lake that he realizes is supernatural. And then at one time during a freak storm, Jonah's mother is the victim that gets dragged into the lake. So he, along with a couple of friends, have to try and solve the mystery and rescue his mom. So that is what Haunted is all about. So there are lots of thrills and scares and spooks and all of that stuff. And of course, because it's a middle grade novel, it does end on a good note. And that's where I'm going to leave it at.
As you're talking, I'm reminded, one of the very first professional job I had out of college was working at it was called a residential treatment center, but it was a detention center for kids in the juvenile justice system in Massachusetts. And it was very different because there was no fence around the camp. And it was a camp setting, and there were no bars on the windows. And I quickly discovered it wasn't needed because all the kids that were sent to this camp is way out in the middle of the woods next to a lake. And the lake, the body of water, was actually called Bloody Pond. Wow. And in Massachusetts, certain parts of Massachusetts, pond water can have a real copper color to it. So the kids, as they come into the camp, they're guided around, and these are mostly urban kids, and so they're kind of freaked out being in the woods anyways. And then they go down to the pond, and they find out that the pond is called Bloody Pond, and you see the blood in the water, and it's because, and we told them this tale, none of those kids would go out after dark. They would not leave the cabin. They could have walked out and gone, but nope, never did.
I love that. It's a bad trick to play on the kids, but really, and the thing is, the camp settings are so rich for stories and for learning and for exploring, emotions and stuff like that, which is why I think some of the greatest stories are set, have a camp setting. Mm-hmm. And I love specifically exploring scary and spooky stories, which is why the entire Eerie Tales from the East is the first one is set in India, which is called Warned and is based on the caste system as well as superstitions and stuff. And the third one is based on, the Ouija board, which is again a scary thing. But in Japan, the Ouija board, which is calling spirits from the dead to answer your questions, was a big rave before it was banned because it was causing a lot of mental health issues. But again, this is set in a very contemporary setting. Uh-huh. And I love exploring these things because, for kids to access scary emotions is through a story, through a safe place, is really, really good for them because it also, I think, helps them navigate these feelings, give voice to them, be able to discuss them, and all of this in a safe space, which I think at some point will prepare them for real life challenges, which is why, I would say a lot of my repertoire, a lot of my books is about scary, spooky stuff, but ordinary kids, rising to extraordinary challenges and coming through changed and braver on the other side. Yeah.
Do you think the popularity of spooky middle grade books is somehow tied to the fact that kids have less and less freedom these days, that so much of their life is scheduled and supervised? When I was a kid, we'd summertime go out of the house and don't come back until the street lights are on for dinner. And then we're running wild by ourselves and, starting baseball games and whatnot. Nowadays, kids, their life they're with an adult 24/7. And so they don't have the chance to explore the woods like I did, to, sneak and swim in a pond or reservoir that we're not supposed to swim in. Do you think that's maybe one of the reasons spooky middle grades are so popular these days?
Absolutely. I think you really have, hit the nail on the head, Jed, because as you were telling me, I remember when I was growing up, there were no cell phones, at that time. Or even if they had it, I did not have a cell phone. No one in my street had a cell phone. So summer holidays, we would leave in the morning and no one knew where we were because we'd be dropping it at friends' places or relatives' places, have lunch, have breakfast, and we'd only come back at dinner time. So I think kids also realize that there is a lot of parental control, a lot of parental supervision these days. Everything is, and the cell phones have tracking now, or you're supposed to check in and stuff like that. So I think stories that allow them to just wander an exciting or exotic setting, or even a setting that they're familiar with, but with different things happening, gives them a chance, a bit of freedom, so to speak, to live the way they would not normally have lived, or experience something different. And I think spooky stories have always been popular. Even before, I remember loving scary stories. I used to love, there was a time when I loved horror movies, adult horror movies, but I think my watershed moment was Evil Dead. I think there have been 5 movies, but I saw the first one, which came out in 1981, and I was so scared. I was so spooked that it completely cured me of ever watching another adult horror movie again. But I remember being able to, experience these feelings, but still know that, oh, you know what, I'm still home. I'm still in a safe place. And that was kind of a revelation. And that's why I veered, when I became a writer, to writing these stories, because there is so much that one can, kind of get out of these stories. And in a way, it also is good for critical thinking or creative thinking, because, when you're going through a mystery, it's almost like close reading, because you are picking up on the clues, you are trying to decipher them in your head, you're trying to join the dots. That's pretty much close reading. That's critical thinking, and you're putting the stuff together, but you're doing it in a fun way where, you're not even realizing that you're learning so many things about putting together a story and language and all of that stuff. So I think it's a win-win. I love writing them, and I know that a lot of my readers love reading them.
Yeah. Let's play on that theme. Of course, we love parents reading or co-reading with their kids, especially middle grade novels and even YA titles. And I don't necessarily think a parent is necessarily going to curl up on the couch with a 12-year-old to read Haunted, but they certainly could co-read it together. Going on that idea of using these spooky stories to kind of play critical, exercise our critical thinking. How do you think a conversation between parent and child about Haunted would do that? If you were a parent, I was your kid, although I'm certainly old enough to be your parent. How would you imagine that conversation would go? Where, what kind of questions might you ask me?
Right. So what the story follows Jonah, who is, who's started the camp with his mother, and he sees certain things, ripples in the water when there is no breeze or whatever. So maybe a parent could ask a child could ask a parent, what is the reasoning for this? What is Jonah experiencing? Then we have a camper who is misbehaving and who is breaking all the rules. So maybe the conversation between the child and the parent could be, is it a good idea if you are in a setting outside of home and there are certain rules? Are the rules there for your safety or not? And should you be breaking the rules? So, I think at every turn of the story or every part of the plot of the story, there are places when the kids follow the rules and at times when they have to break the rules, because when there is a storm going on, one of the Jonah's mother has disappeared because she's the victim and she's in the lake. But then there is another counselor who says everyone has to be indoors and no one can be outdoors. There is, there's a lot of rain and lightning and whatever, and it's not safe. But that is the time that Jonah breaks the rules because he says, I've got to save my mother. And there are a couple of friends who help save him. So the conversation could then go as to, when is it okay to break a rule? Sometimes is it, if you're doing something good, or if you're trying to save someone's life, is that good? Is it fine to endanger your own life if you have to do that or not? And these are important conversations that a parent could have with a child to equip them with enough knowledge to make the right decision when they are faced with a scenario like that in real life.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I love the fact that you've taken some classic stories from different parts of the world and brought them up to date. I think that's really genius. One of the frustrating things you mentioned going to spooky movies. I don't think I've been to the theater to see a movie in years, mainly because they're all remakes of superhero movies or remakes of a classic movie. I was like, oh, I saw that already. I don't need to see it again. There are so many stories throughout the world that we don't have to keep on telling the same story 18,000 times. We can look to different parts of the world for inspiration.
You know what? That's so right, Jed, because I find with sometimes what happens is, especially in the movie industry and even in the book industry, when something works and it has an audience, whether it's readership or it's viewership, the powers that be want to do the same thing. They want to keep replicating it, saying, we made money on this one, or this one was popular. Let's give the audience more of it because now we know what the audience wants. But honestly, the audience doesn't know what they want till you present something fresh and interesting. And we've seen that time and time again. Everyone is doing the same thing. When vampires or when zombies was, popular, tons of books with the same thing are coming out, or tons of movies with Marvel superheroes comes out. I'm sure that still has an audience. But then when something fresh pops up, everyone loves it. And that becomes the new trend. But the fact is that you've got to be, as a writer or as a filmmaker or any creative person, I think you have to have enough belief in your story and your idea, saying, I'm not going to do what everyone else does. This is what I love. This is what I'm going to do. And wait for, and release it and just promote it. And that's how kids will discover you, and they might discover something else that they love. So I think it's important to try something new and not follow a trend, because by the time something becomes a trend, it's already on its way down. So I always say, write what you like or explore a creative outlet that you like rather than following what's already been done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also love I just love getting to know different stories. One of the things that's fun, and my beautiful wife used to do this with her students all the time, was just take a classic story, like, say, Cinderella, and discover that story has been told in different ways with different names in Mexico and India and China. And I think that's really super. And then to get the kids to think that, okay, fine, this is great. Cinderella, there's a story in Mexico. But all these stories, they popped up before there was the internet, before there were phones, before the people in Mexico knew what people in Europe were thinking.
Yeah. And you know what? We have always been, storytellers from the time that life began. We've been storytellers in different shapes and forms. I mean, earlier it was oral storytelling. Now it's turned into books, but stories have always been told. But what I also love is that you have the regular stories. I mean, the ones that have always been told, the fairy tales, but then now more and more, I'm seeing a lot of tales that are fractured fairy tales, which is, you almost turn them on their head and make it something new and something different, which explores a certain culture. And I think I remember reading short fractured fairy tales from an American author, I think John Sheska, if I'm not mistaken, who writes about the three pigs and, but just really interesting and switching them around, where it's the pigs who have the power and to defeat the big bad wolf. So, it's kind of fun, but you're right. There are stories all over the place. And I think we've got to expand our horizons from just stories that have a certain demographic or, white people, or stories from, say, North America or the UK, and explore it. And which is why I wanted to study Asia. Like I said, there are more than enough stories with main characters who are from North America. And there are tons of them, thanks to Harry Potter, that there were, UK has got, or the British culture has got enough stories that have been woven around it. It is a very rich culture and traditions and stories around it. I said Asia hasn't got as much visibility. And so Eerie Tales is kind of a tribute to stories from around that area. And I would, when I have the time, I want to write another installment of another 3 books from, say, Indonesia or Malaysia. And I actually started doing the research. I just haven't had the time. But I would love to find a really interesting story that I can kind of drop into a contemporary setting and write that. Yeah, that's the plan.
We had an author maybe around the time that you came, who was telling me about the most ferocious pirate of all times. Happened to be a Chinese woman. I can't remember her name, but imagine updating that to contemporary times.
Oh, wow. That would be so good. I think I know who you mean, because a friend of mine has actually written a picture book on that, but the name eludes me right now. But you're right. Like, there are so many rich stories just waiting to be, shared with the world. But also the thing is that these stories, which are currently available, they are a bit didactic. They are part of the mythology of a certain country, and it may not make as interesting reading unless you are interested in history or you wanted to access that story in that particular form. But pulling out interesting threads and putting it into a story that is more accessible and more interesting for kids, that will really get them reading. Like, for example, when I wrote Warned, which is about the caste system in India. Now, India does have, a major 4 or 5 major caste systems, with the untouchables being right at the bottom. And if you go to really explore that, it's very dry. It's not as interesting. But if you pick up aspects of it and put it into a story, it will help kids to understand that, yes, in India, there is a caste system. It still exists. And, they could make it some extra reading if they wanted to do it. But it opens up that topic for them, or for teachers to discuss it in their classroom, saying, what really happened in the story. Because in this story, there is a young protagonist, Avi, who the moment he goes into this village where he's staying with his grandfather because his parents have to go off somewhere, he runs into an astrologer who on the very first day predicts that he's going to die. And Abby does not believe in superstitions, but when some of the other predictions that this astrologer has made start to come true, Abby starts getting worried, saying, am I going to die in the next couple of weeks? But then he teams up with another girl who is from the untouchable class in India, and he, along with her, solve the mystery. So the story is about solving the mystery and the predictions and the mystery surrounding the astrologer and why is he making such dire predictions. But very slowly, it also introduces the class system and how Avi's friend Lalita is treated by the people around her. So that can also bring up some really good conversations in classrooms, saying, is this right? It used to happen. Should it still happen? Should you discriminate against any one person because of how they were born or stuff like that? So I think there's value in reading these kind of books, not just mine. There are so many out there.
Absolutely. Hey, you used the phrase sharing stories. You were telling me before the show you want to share Haunted with people, and there are a couple of ways that they can do it. Please tell us all about it.
Absolutely. You know what? I really believe in sharing the stories as widely as possible. So any of your viewers, readers, if they would like a copy of Haunted, all they have to do is go to my website, which is www.mahatabnarsimhan.com. Click on the newsletter. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, which is called Cooking the Books, where I have a recipe, I have some freebies, I have some interesting stuff for teachers and parents. And if you guys sign up to the newsletter, I will get a notification for that, and I will send whoever signed up a link to download the book Haunted.
That's wonderful. What a wonderful gift. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Haunted. It's the new middle grade novel from our guest, Mahatab Narasimhan. My friend, thank you so much for being back on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. You'll join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing the link to the show with someone you love. You can share it with someone that you just feel casually good about, too. We really hope that you'll consider leaving a 5-star review and also subscribing to the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. Want to encourage you also to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Gently Magic on X, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Adam and Isla Adler. Please be sure to check out the Wyzly app. Also want to thank Mahata Nasinhan. Please be sure to check out Haunted. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Soltolaro. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she brings into my life. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better, a more empathetic and caring place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.